Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
It took us twice as long. Hare Krishna. You are a little bit in the beginning stages of devotional practice. Yes? Of your devotional practice? No. Very experienced. Not practicing. You're beginning. You're a beginner in the bhakti process. Yes. Okay. The topic that I was asked to speak about is the importance of chanting and the effects of chanting. So I thought to speak on a few verses on the importance of, and this part is the effects of chanting. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with Bhagavad Gita? Very good. And a little bit, at least in name, Srimad Bhagavatam. Not at all. Okay. Bhagavad Gita is sometimes referred to as the undergraduate, and Bhagavatam is the graduate study. So everything there that's in undergraduate is there in graduate. It's just explained more completely. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a few verses that I want to quickly refer to, and then we'll go on to this. One of those verses is explaining the influence of time in the universe. That's a really big concept. Time moves matter, and time moves in cycles, like day and night, seasons, summer, fall, winter, spring, etc. And time in a larger scale, not biggest scale, but a larger scale, there are ages of mankind, and they cycle. And processes that are most effective for awakening spiritual consciousness in different ages. It's meditation. The second of the four is the process of sacrifice. In the third of the four, 4. And the 4th, that's the one that we're in now. Or spiritual life consciousness is the holy name was in each of the other ages. It is special importance for this age. Special importance. That's one. Then there's second one is towards the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a description of what happens as this age goes on and the deterioration of the good qualities of the human beings on, in the universe, in this planet, but also in the universe. And the picture is pretty bleak. And then it speaks that, in fact, it's an ocean of faults. Dosha is a Sanskrit word that means faults. And in this ocean, there's two. Of the process of chanting. Those that say it positively. Those that take shelter of the process of chanting can have those same negative influences on consciousness diminished. That is, one's consciousness can become very elevated while the winter season is happening. The cycle of the 4 seasons. It's like winter season. Very bad. And there's another verse that's a companion literature that says, I'll just say the whole verse. Nama, it's pretty interesting. The Sanskrit word for name is nama. Probably the English word name is derived from the Sanskrit word nama. The name is called Chintamani. Chinta means, so it's a touchstone. Touchstone. Touchstone is a special kind of stone. It can transform ordinary into extraordinary. It can transform things. Like a touchstone contacting base metal can transform it into gold. Touchstone has transforming powers. The name is transformative. Nama Chintamani. And the third word is Krishnas, Krishna. Namachintamani Krishna. The next line is Chaitanya. You've heard of Lord Chaitanya, right? Yes? You've heard his name. Lord Chaitanya, the word Chaitanya means living force. Living force. Rasa Vigraha. Rasa means taste. Like when you eat something that's hot, it's pungent. When you eat something that's sweet, it's sweet. When you eat something that's salty, it's salty. There's a rasa with different foods. There's also a rasa with different music, or a rasa with different relationships that people have. And Vigraha, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Vigraha means form. So the name is the form, or Vigraha, of consciousness. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. I'll say the whole thing after we go through the word for word. Well, the first two lines. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho. Purna means complete. Shuddha means pure. It's completely pure. So you when come in contact with that which is completely pure, what happens? You become pure. The name is Purna Shuddho, completely pure. So if you want your consciousness to become pure, come in contact with that which is completely pure. It's going to happen just by contact. Nitya Mukto. Nitya means eternal. Mukta, you've heard of Mukti? You've heard the word? Mukti? Mukti means liberation. Nitya Mukto, it's always liberated. It's we can manifest it in the physical plane through sound, but it's Nitya Mukto. It's not of this world. And by contacting it, we become pure and we become liberated just by contact with that sound. That's the transformative effect. This is it. This is why it's important. Chanting, why it's important. Purna Shuddho, Nitya Mukto, and then the last line is really nice. Abhina Tvam Nama Namino. Tvam is a Sanskrit suffix that means having the quality of something, like ness, like hardness or softness or kindness or somethingness. Tvam means having the quality of. Abhina means non-different. It has the quality of being non-different between the name and the object named. Nama and Nami. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but I've been around long enough that I know some very simple things. Nama and Nami is, Nama is the name, and Nami is the object named. Like, water is the name, and there's the object named. And things that are material, the name is different than the object named. If I say chair, it's different than the thing I'm sitting on. I can't sit on that sound. I can't quench my thirst by saying water, water, water. The sound or the name and the object named are different. But spiritual sound has a different rule. It's the same. Abhina Tvam Nama Namino. The name and the object named are the same. So by associating with the name, you're associating with the person. That's why it's important. Because The name is not different in the person. And the name is Purna Shuddho, eternally pure and eternally liberated. So by associating with the name, I'm getting the person and purification and liberation. And that's the transformative, the Chintamani, some of the Chintamani features of the name. Nama Chintamani, Krishna's. Chaitanya, living force. Rasa, Vigraha, it's the form of rasa. We do things because we get a taste from them. Whatever those things are that people do, they do them again and again because they have a taste for them. Whatever that is. Playing basketball or earning money or, something, playing music. There's some taste involved in the people do it because they get some taste from it. And is this the form of taste, of consciousness? Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So that's its importance. It's meant for this age. It's the means by which consciousness can be elevated up to the stage of perfection. Of course, that's also to be defined. But perfection, perfection is just, in simple terms, completely pure. No covering, no contamination. Like pure air, pure water, pure consciousness. It's completely pure in its natural state. And the importance of the name is it delivers all of that. And the potency is there to deliver that, and it takes generally, because it's the age of Kali, it's not a good time. It takes a while. The potency is there, but it takes a while for purification to become, gradually more and more complete. And then one can experience that gradual, on the one side cleansing and the other side uplifting of consciousness. That's its importance. And so those are nice claims. Does it work? Is it effective? And then the request can be, that's what it says in the texts, in these very ancient wisdom literature texts. And so try it. We passed through. I didn't know that you lived so close to Wash U. You're very proximate. So once upon a time, I was a college student a few years ago, and somebody said, why don't you try it? You're doing this, and you're doing that, and you're doing the other thing. Continue those things and add this and try it and see what happens. Because here's the importance of it. Okay? I'm game. I'm trying so many other things. I'll try this. And I found it was effective. Even in comparison to other things that I found effective. I found it effective and more effective. And so I continued. So like that. The quoting George Harrison, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. It's yummy. So the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. That's its importance. It does all those things. Then the other part is the effect. So now what you see on the screen here, that's an image, a painting of Lord Chaitanya chanting and dancing along with his friends, his devotees. And he composed 8 verses that describe chanting in its stages. In this first one, it's a long verse. I'm going to go through it step by step. But there's 7 divisions, and we're going to go through each of those 7. But and they're sequential. The first one is Cheta Darpana Marjanam. As you see the meaning, Cheta means of the heart, Darpana means mirror, and Marjanam means cleansing. So cleansing the mirror. The mind, or the heart, is like a mirror, and it reflects things. It doesn't generate existences, but it reflects existences. So here's a lady using some product, cleansing a mirror. It's an advertisement from the 50s. Cleansing the mirror of the mind, or the heart, or materially sullied consciousness. So that's what it does. First, experientially, one who begins chanting, this is something you can look forward to, or you do the litmus test, you examine to see, is this what's happening? It happens. Cheta Darpana Marjanam. There's the full Sanskrit and the translation. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, that's the line at the top, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years. The painting that's shown in the right is Lord Chaitanya with his associates cleansing a temple. Do you two know anything about Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra? No, zero. Okay. The largest single-day event, attendance-wise, in the world for longest time has been Jagannath Rath Yatra. It's a big event. And the deities that are in the temple come off the altar from the temple. They're placed in a big cart. Just this past weekend in New York, they had their Fifth Avenue parade in 90-degree weather. It was like really nice weather. And, parade down Fifth Avenue, like is done in Puri every year. And so the painting is showing Lord Chaitanya that when the deity left the altar, they were taken to this new, 1 week long, the deity would stay at this place. And they're cleansing the temple. They're cleansing the temple because they want to make it inviting for Lord Jagannath or Krishna to stay. When you make a place clean, it's inviting to stay. When you make a place, you come into a place that's not clean, doesn't have the same inviting feel to it. But so to invite Krishna into the heart, one cleanses the heart. Now he's already there, but it makes it inviting. Here's an explanation at the bottom there. The chanting of Krishna's name is a purifying agent that cleanses our hearts of envy, the root cause of our descent to this world, and other bad qualities that we have since acquired, like lust, greed, and anger. So it cleanses the unwanted things. Unwanted things. Here's another nice painting. In the upper left, you see Krishna in the spiritual world with the cowherd boys, and the upper right is with the gopis and so forth and so on. And then you see this circle down in the lower right corner. That's the cloud of the material energy. And you see that skinny guy turning away from Krishna in the spiritual world, and he goes into the material world. So, I'm out of here. I want to go to a place where I can enjoy independently, kind of idea. That's what the image is meant to portray. Here's the verse from Bhagavad Gita. Now we're back to something we're familiar with, Bhagavad Gita. You can look up the verse later. Icha dvesha samutena. O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, that's dvandva moha, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate. That's the first line. Icha, desire. Dvesha, hate. So everybody here has it. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have it. We'd be in the spiritual world where we're trying to get back to. But desire and hate, and that's cleansed. These effects of ignoring Krishna, it's due to this dvesha or envy and icha or desire. That's a painting of a mirror that's dirty. It's a dirty mirror. And the heart or consciousness has those dirts or contaminations or envy and desire. So that's the dirty mirror of the mind. And the chanting has the effect of cleansing the heart or the mind. And the cleansing agent is the holy name. And by gradual chanting, then the holy name appears not just on your tongue and in your ear, but in your heart. That's the more mature stage. There's the fullest mature stage. The fullest mature stage is called restoring one's relationship and returning to the spiritual world in one's spiritual form. We have a physical body, and then there's a spiritual form, a spiritual body that's dormant. But when it becomes matured, it's called swarup. It's a nice word. This painting is a story about this young cowherd boy, pictured here, who returned to the spiritual world, and Krishna gave him the name Swarup and embraced him. He looked pretty happy. So that's the mature stage of that cleansing of ignorance. And that's one of 7. Now we're moving along. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Agni means fire. Agni means fire. And Mahadava Agni is a big blazing forest fire. And there's a blazing forest fire of material existence. So the second effect of chanting is, as the cleansing takes place, the nirvapanam, the extinguishing of the blazing fire of material existence. So here's a blazing fire. And there's a painting of a pastime that Krishna performed that's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. It happened twice, actually. There was a forest fire. They're in a village area called Vrindavan, and at night there was a forest fire, and the cows were at risk, and the cowherd boys were at risk, and they asked Krishna, "Help!" He said, "Close your eyes," because he didn't want them to see him swallow the fire, because they might have thought, "Uh-oh, he's going to be in danger." So they closed their eyes, and he extinguished the blazing fire all around. So like that pastime of Krishna, the name extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. So as the name purifies the heart, that's the first part, Krishna's name also protects sincere chanters from any further contamination from the worldly energy and those affected by it. There's a reference at the bottom where it's from Bhagavad Gita. Kama rupena. Kama means lusty desire, not just, sensual, but any kind of, I want to enjoy this object and gratify myself in a kind of exploitative way. That's kama. And this kama is the eternal enemy of those in this world. This fire of material life is very dangerous. And it's dushparena, it's never satisfied, and analena, kama, just you add fuel to fire, it just burns more. You get more in material existence and it burns more. So it's a risky place, and it's very fearful. When I was a young boy, I grew up in upstate New York, and in upstate New York, there's a big mountain range called the Adirondack Mountains. So in every fall, our family were outdoorsy type. So, we got in the car and went to just go drive in the mountains, seeing the changing of the colors of the trees in the Adirondacks. It was really nice. And one time when we were going along, it was, towards the evening hour, kind of like the sky is right now. Not fully bright sun, but it's not sunset yet. And we were driving, because looking at and then we felt this heat, this waves and waves and waves of heat. And what's that? Because it was cooling down from the day in the fall. And we riding around because it's in a mountainous road, and we got to a place where, I don't know how far away, there was a forest fire on one of the mountains. And it was really so far away, it was really hot. And it was raging. We just turned around and went the other way. Forest fires are very dangerous. They're very fearful things. Don't get caught in a forest fire. And material life is a forest fire, is compared to a forest fire. I left this slide in because I thought you might be interested in hearing a nice story. Part of the Vedas, this vast body of literature, is called the Upanishads. You've heard the Upanishads? Oh, great. Upanishad? No. Okay. It's a philosophical section. There's the history section, then there's the philosophical section, and there's kind of like the ritual section with mantras and things like that, the how to do rituals to get happiness, material happiness. So the philosophical portion, one of them, in the lower left corner you see Katha Upanishad, and it begins, this section I'm going to narrate, it begins with this student named Nachiketa, and he had a guru. I think his guru's name is Gautama, Rishi. So he asked the Rishi, some service, please. He said, yes, I'd like you to bring, commonly I ask you to bring wood for the fire, but I'm asking you instead, bring fire from hell. We can start our fire up here. So Nachiketa, being a nice student, he went to the hellish region. That dark-looking person was carrying a scepter with a skull at the top. That's Yamaraj. So he goes to Yamaraj and says, can I have some fire? Yamaraj laughs and says, the fire is not from something here. The fire is coming from the sins of the people themselves. That fire is burning. You can't, you have to relieve them of their sins. You can't just take the fire away. But there's a way to extinguish fire, according to this verse, and that's, notice the effect. It's this downpour of rain. Firefighters have a hard time putting out forest fires. They use their buckets and they use their hoses and they use all kinds of things. But what really works is a downpour of rain. So this is the extinguishing the forest fire of material existence is like the soothing effect of rain that puts out the fire of material existence. It cleanses and it finishes. The potency is there. The blazing forest fire of material existence is extinguished. Nirvapanam. Because I was asked to speak about the effects. I was just going to discuss it, but the visuals are really good. So we're doing it this way. So that's two. Cleansing and extinguishing the forest fire of material existence. And the next one is really nice. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Kairava is a white lotus. There's a white lotus. There are different colors for lotuses. This white lotus is a symbol of purity. So, white lotus of good fortune. That's the Shreya word. Shreya Kairava. So there's the white lotus of good fortune. And as you probably know, lotuses have a way of, when the sun rises and shines, the lotus opens, and at night, the lotus closes. It's nature, how nature works. So when the night of this age of Kali comes, the white lotus of good fortune is closed. But the holy name acts like rays of the benedicting moon that expands the petals of the white lotus. So even in this age of Kali, this dark age, it brings light into the dark age, and the white lotus of good fortune is expanded. That's in the metaphor, the heart is like a lotus, and the heart opens. And when the heart opens, some other good things happen. So these are the effects. The fourth effect is vidya, means knowledge or education. Vadhu means wife. There's Vadhu, there she is. Or even more specifically, it's the young bride. Young bride. And what's with the young bride? She's, pulling back her veil. But what's she thinking of? Her husband or her fiancé. As she's just got married. She's thinking about him. And so for her, the object of her meditation is her husband. And the name is like the young bride of transcendental knowledge. There's this word vidya. So it's the life of when the heart opens, knowledge that's within the heart already, but forgotten and covered, awakens. The white lotus of good fortune awakens, and it's practically experienced as one progresses in chanting. The life, jivanam, of the wife, who's the life of the wife? It's her husband, or the young bride. And that transcendental knowledge, the young bride of transcendental knowledge becomes awakened. So the name is the life of the young bride of all transcendental knowledge. The life of the young bride of all transcendental knowledge. Pictured on the right, those are two of Lord Chaitanya's close followers, Rupa and Sanatan. You'll learn more about them as you go along. So now here's a little description. A result of acquiring devotion, this is, as the white lotus of good fortune opens, the heart becomes open. Devotion to the source of everything becomes what one experiences progressively. That devotion result is that devotees become illuminated with spiritual knowledge. Further chanting matures that knowledge into realization, which in time reveals devotees' original position and one of the 5 relationships with Krishna. Just from chanting. I mean, there's other things that we do besides chanting, but the chanting is the most effective means of awakening all of this. We do other things along with chanting, but chanting is at the heart. Here's a picture, a painting of a woman with a shaved head, because before she was a woman with a shaved head, she was a prostitute. And she was sent by a really bad guy to try to make Haridas, a chanter of the holy name, fall, to be seduced by her. It worked the other way around. She became influenced by the completely pure holy name. She became purified. Purnashuddho. And that's the goal of education, is to develop this attachment. So one does this, you have the fruit or the life of transcendental knowledge. I see some hand signals. Are we okay? Should I shorten this? We're okay. Is there something else that's got to be attended to? Anyway, I'll let you do your hand signals. This painting, that's Lord Chaitanya again, wearing this garland. And the person in front of him is Mr. Super Scholar. His name is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he was the most learned person in the whole of Puri. That's the same place where the Rath Yatra takes place. The deity comes off the altar and goes in a cart and so forth. So he was the leading scholar of the whole country. Like, amazing. So he was trying to train this 24-year-old sannyasi in the scriptures. And, the very, very, very rigid parts of the scriptures. And he just sat there and listened to him for 7 days. So at the end, they had a discussion on this very celebrated verse, Atmarama verse it's called. Here's the translation. With the exception of devotional service, all the methods of self-realization are like the nipples on the neck of a goat. Have you ever seen that? Goats, here's a goat. And the goat has these things hanging down from their neck. Nipples on the neck of a goat don't deliver anything. It's just vestige of something that from however they got them, they're still there. Therefore, an intelligent person adopts only devotional service, giving up all other processes of self-realization. They discussed this verse for like half a day. It's a very important verse. And that happens with chanting. So here's one type of chanting Prabhupada is explaining this lecture. There's chanting on beads, there's chanting in Sankirtan, and there's chanting reading Bhagavad Gita. They're all nice forms of chanting. And they go well together. We just have 3 left. They're sequential. And so now at a very further advanced stage, Ananda means bliss. Ambudhi means ocean. Here's an ocean. Ambudhi means ocean. And Vardhanam means increasing or expanding. It expands the ocean of Ananda. Now that's high, not just like feeling good or comfortable or content, but it's far more than that. Ananda is an ocean of bliss. There's an ocean, an Ambudhi, and then there's an ocean of bliss. Ananda Ambudhi. And you know who is Radharani? Radharani. Radha Krishna? Radharani. So here's one of the names of Radharani. She's the Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. So when you in mature stages, one can directly be in contact with Krishna's pleasure potency Radharani, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. If one doesn't have that, then one has this. That's the illusory potency. It's a nice painting of the illusory potency, operated by the three modes of nature. Three modes of nature. Goodness, passion, ignorance are the three modes of nature, and they're presiding deities of them. That's what's shown in the middle there. And so we're under the whammy of that illusory potency, unless we're under the influence of Radharani. She's the internal potency, the Ananda potency, or the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency. So there's Radharani on the swing with Krishna. It's Radharani. And in Vrindavan, there's a deity of this Yogamaya. There she is, pictured here. Someday, may you all get to visit Vrindavan. I was planning, pandemic kind of put the plan on hold, but I was planning on taking a group of devotees last October. It's a special month in Vrindavan, Kartik month, to Vrindavan. Pandemic said no. And it looked like what's going on in India is going to be no this year too. So we're probably going to do this virtually. I'm making plan to, so the same dates, those of you that know about the dates, it's, latter part of November. And Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj already agreed to participate virtually. Some of you know him. Dinabandhu is going to say yes. I know he'll say yes because he loves Vrindavan. And we'll do a virtual tour. Probably one of the places we'll go to is this place. It's in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is where Krishna had his childhood pastimes. Vrindavan. And it's not far from Delhi. So there's a deity there, as you see. That's the Yogamaya potency. Here's a close-up of the same deity, Yogamaya potency. And here's a painting of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Prabhupada, you know who is Prabhupada, yes? Prabhupada? He's my spiritual master. He brought this chanting process to the West, and then all around the world. And so he's my spiritual master, and his spiritual master's father is pictured here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He lived in the second half of the 1800s and the early part of the 1900s. Not so long ago. And, there you see he has some books on his lap, and he was a high court judge. During the British rule, he was a high court judge. No one did that. British people were the high court judges, but he was so good. Anyway, this is what he writes. That person is a true preceptor, a true father, a true mother, a true friend, only if they teach one to always remember the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. So, moving right along, we have just 2 of the 7 left. Here's the Anandam Buddhivardhanam. That's the one you saw already. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. As much as the heart is relieved of unwanted habits, that's the first one, Chaita Darpana Marjanam, to that degree we become devoted to Krishna. As much as devotion is firmly fixed in our hearts, to that degree we acquire realized knowledge. Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. And as much as the heart is illuminated by both devotion and knowledge, to that degree we taste spiritual happiness. In this way, the ocean of bliss swells. Nice. So here's excellence number 6. Padam. Pada means a step. You know, kind of like the Latin word centipede. It comes from the Sanskrit pada. Pada means foot or step. Pratipadam. Purna, there's that word purna again. Purna means complete or full. Amrita, complete, full nectar. Asvadanam, it gives us a taste of the full nectar for which we're always hankering. The soul becomes reinstated in its natural position in the spiritual realm. We saw this picture before. And the followers of Lord Chaitanya are pictured here, and there's a song glorifying them that speaks like this. Prema Amrita. Amrita is nectar. Prema Amrita is the nectar of love. And they were able to experience it. And one who becomes mature in chanting can experience it. Here's another way of saying the same. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. There's a heart in this painting. There's Krishna, who is within the heart, and there's a lamp that's lighting. So knowledge and devotion to Krishna simultaneously awakened by chanting. And pratipadam, in every step. If we perform this chanting with love, we will see Krishna either internally or externally at every step. And here's a summary. It enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. There's a nice photograph of Prabhupada, my spiritual master, Prabhupada, with devotees. These devotees are in Germany, and they look very happy. Prabhupada probably told a joke and everyone's laughing. When devotees finally achieve the perfection of chanting, they taste the full nectar of loving devotion to Krishna, a nectar that makes the bliss of liberation seem insignificant. And then the summary, excellence number 7. Sarva means for everyone or all. Atma snapanam. Atma means the self or the soul. And snapanam means bathing. You take a soul bath. For everyone. Sarvatma snapanam. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. Chanting frees conditioned souls of the illusion of identifying themselves with their body and mind, and establishes them in the cleansed and cooling reality that they are eternal spiritual entities. Again, that's a photograph of Srila Prabhupada. He's receiving a printing from Macmillan Press. They printed Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada's looking at the first volume, and there's his assistant who's seeing how happy Prabhupada is, and it's making him very happy. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. Okay, so that's the second part of what I was asked to speak about. The importance of and the effects of chanting. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So the kirtanam can be like we just were doing before with musical instruments, or it can be, this. That's what hand motion was about. It's okay, quite okay. He's a resident of the house too. When you have beads, most likely, and you do some chanting on your beads. If not, you can consider getting some beads and doing some chanting like this, like many of us do. Years, 52 years. They're getting worn. It's very smooth. And another form of associating with the name. And just by reading Bhagavad Gita, there's names of Krishna there, and Krishna's message is there. That's another form that goes well with just chanting the name. So, thoughts on the importance of chanting and the benediction. Because you're not familiar with Sanskrit. Okay, this one works. If there's too many Sanskrit terms, my apology. But the part of the idea is these teachings are authoritative. That's one of the effects. If you don't understand the Sanskrit words, know for sure there's a very strong support in authority. I'll just share something. When I first started practicing Krishna consciousness, my parents thought, it's a phase, you'll get over it. When I didn't get over it, they went into, the next thing. They wanted to say, what is this thing he's doing? Is it authentic? They didn't tell me. They just told me afterwards. They were checking it out. This is authentic. So all the Sanskrit can tell you it's authentic. It's not just like out of the air and here's something, voila. It's a very authorized process, very ancient and substantial process. And to connect, it helps me to connect with the Sanskrit because I don't know Sanskrit. It's not the language I grew up with. But the words mean something. There's a potency in the words. So that's another purpose of referring to all this Sanskrit terminology. It's a little much for a new person, so that's why I'm apologizing. But as you become familiar with it, it's like anything that you are familiar with. You feel, it makes it. There's a connection, a heart connection. So let's see if there's some discussion. And I think there's some people online, but we'll invite people who are in the room to say whatever they'd like to say, discuss something, share something.
I noticed that verses, they were like 3, 2, 1. When you, the ocean, the life of the ocean of bliss.
Yes.
Is that how the language is spoken?
No. It's just the way that, the English rendering of it makes it come out like that. To make sense in English, you got to, shift around the word order a little bit. But it's not like a rule. You do things backwards or something. It's just, to make it conventional. And there's, because I'm not a linguist, there must be some linguistic reasons why there's certain words. And maybe it's so many rules of meter, and to make the meter work, the sequence goes like this instead of like that. But to make the English rendering, it's just, what's the essence, and you express the essence in a language that the local people understand. These, by the way, the Bhagavad Gita is now translated into something like 86 languages in the world. That's a lot of work. And then, then the Srimad Bhagavatam has fewer, but it's work in progress. And it's going to come out a little bit different when it's in Swahili as opposed to English. They have it in China. The whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam is in. There's an ISBN from the government to publish it. But it's their printing house only. That's China. Here, you can use this one.
I think about a year ago I started chanting, but it's been a struggle, for a lack of a better word, to focus and concentrate. So I was wondering, how long did it take you to finally get your mind? Because I've been struggling to, it happens for a little while, but then it goes and comes. And it goes more than it comes.
Experience. It's a common experience, and it has everything to do with, that the mirror of the mind, and how thick is that layer of dust, or how many miles thick is the layer of dust. So that you're experiencing some clarity and focus, that's mercy. Because there's lots more layers of dust. It's reciprocation from Krishna that you're experiencing what some focus and clarity. So how long it takes, it's going to vary from person to person, because we have our spiritual trajectory can be this or this or this, and then there's the sine curve effect, the up and down, and up and down. And up and down. It's just part of being a conditioned soul. There's highs and there's lows. There's hills and there's valleys. There's good experience and there's uncomfortable experience. It's just part of our conditioning. It's the world in which we live, and because of the mind. So your question was, how long does it take? And my answer is, it depends. It varies from person to person, and it also varies how much concentration or effort, you can say. Abhyasa is the Sanskrit word, practice. So it's one thing that the mouth is going, and it's another thing what's the mind doing. And that's the distraction, whether it's focused and not focused. So it takes practice, and it depends on the intensity of your practice and the intensity of your recognizing, I can't do this on my own. I need some mercy from some higher power. So the prayerfulness of your effort will also be an answer to how long it'll take. And it's going to vary from person to person, and even for the same person, from one time to another time, even within the expanse of 10 minutes. It can be higher and lower. Connectivity, or being distracted or not distracted, being focused. And then, so it's practice. Practice makes perfect, right? Little saying. But it's not just practice, it's the quality of practice makes perfect. How are we doing with the tricky microphone? You're going to give me the cord one, you're going to take the cordless one. Okay, great, thanks. Others would like to.
It's such an honor. Such an honor. Thank you. I have a tradition of practicing transcendental meditation since college. So I'd like to know the importance of chanting so that I can actually hear the chant, verbalizing it, instead of saying it.
Practice will help you hear and realize the chant sound. Okay. For a teaching I like and resonate well with, it goes like this. There's the Vedic, can you turn the volume up? The Vedic conception of the senses is there's 5 knowledge acquiring senses and there's the mind, makes 6. So the senses compete for attention. And the mind thinks I'm in charge. But actually the mind is serving the dictates of the senses. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I want to see something, I want to touch something, I want to smell something. So the mind is running after the senses. Now, with mantra meditation, the teaching is when you hear, so focus on the sound and hearing the sound. The mouth is making the sound, but the mind may be elsewhere. If you want to capture the mind, you have to hear. And Bhaktisiddhanta's teaching is the ear can conquer the mind. And then there's no longer a quibble. He uses that word, quibble. Like argument over who's in charge. The ear is in charge. The mind can be conquered by the ear. So when you're practicing mantra meditation, it's the sound and it's hearing the sound. Now that's a qualitative, up and down also. But when you're hearing the sound, the mind is conquered. And the senses become inert. This is the Rupa Goswami's teaching, I like. So, whatever you can do that focuses attention on hearing, then you can conquer the distractedness of the mind. That's a key to, how long does it take kind of question. And there are things that can help the attentiveness of the ear. Just like we spent a little bit of time on what's the importance or what's the effect. So sometimes some devotees like certain prayers, and they recite certain prayers before they begin chanting, that helps the heart open, because they, in a meditative content. So, and the heart is open, and now I know what my business is. It's not a mechanical something. It's a experiential something, and I want to hear the sound. When I hear the sound enters the heart. The mind becomes stunned. The senses become inert. So it takes practice, because we're conditioned. It goes over here and goes over there, and then we bring it back to the sound, hearing the sound, and let that hearing happen. There's another very simple teaching that I have learned, and that is the message of alignment. Alignment meaning body, mind, and heart. And the body is the tongue and the ear, aligned with the mind aligned with the heart. The heart has everything to do with, why am I doing this anyways? Not just like the selfishness of it, but the relationship of it, the relationship with Krishna. And the name of Krishna is not different than Krishna. So how much do I want what's in my heart specific to my relationship with the source of everything? I want to make that connection. I want the personal relationship to be palpably experienced. That's the heart. And an alignment of body, mind, and heart. That's a whole topic. But that's in response to your question. There's recordings of seminars on these topics that, extensively and, thoroughly going through them. Let's go online.
This is from Rupa Vilas Das Prabhu. I was wondering how the fire of hell was mentioned.
Turn the volume down. Or speak more softly.
In this talk. Is that to say that the holy name can extinguish fire of even hell?
Yes.
Okay. The next question is from Amara Mataji. If thoughts about improving our services come while we chant, then how we avoid those? Do we even need to avoid such thoughts?
Yes, you do need to avoid such thoughts. And one of the best ways I have learned to avoid such thoughts is to think the following. This is my time for being with Krishna. And A or B, and A wins. If I am well connected with Krishna, my service is going to be the intelligence to do my service, and the service itself will be very effective. Or B, I'll spend my time while chanting to not be attentive to Krishna and plan out my service. It's going to be not the same quality, and nor the sense of satisfaction either, to me or to Krishna. So that's what I do. Go to A. This is my time. This is the heart. This is my time to be with Krishna. That's it.
This is from Ritika Khanna. Hare.
Keep speaking. He'll adjust the volume.
Okay. I have one question. It is fine to do chanting while listening lecture.
No.
So next question is from...
Because it has to do with hearing. Her question. Or my answer to her question.
Okay.
You're hearing this, you're not hearing that. It's like, when you're cooking, for example, you can chant, but you're not going to be inattentive to your cooking because you burned something or whatever. So you're attentive to your cooking, but you can chant while cooking, but you can't listen to class while you're chanting. The ear is not going to go to those two places. Go ahead.
Okay, this is from Manasa. How can be always active in 16 rounds of chanting? In between, we might feel to be enough.
Practice.
Can I move on?
Yeah.
So-
yeah. If when the heart becomes pure, why, this is Prabhupada now, why only 16? So it's not just 16 is a good standard. 16 means how many rounds, how many times on the beats. So that's the beginning. Anyway, go ahead.
So this is again from Rupa Vilas Prabhu. We have heard that the holy name of Krishna can remove all distress of the chanter.
All which? Remove all what's
distress,
distress.
distress
Distress.
of the chanter. Is it okay to tell our friends to try chanting for overcoming distress arising from loss of friends and family members?
Sure. But, it depends on the relationship, how you say what you say. So, yes, it's okay, but be very sensitive to the person and the situation they're passing through as to how you express. But yes, it's certainly okay because it's true. That's it. Anything else in the room? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki